Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Showcase on Bloodborne. Now for today's request, I was planning to put out the later end of the playlist, but hey, it was requested, so I don't care if it's out of order. Today's item, Ludwig's Holy Blade. Ignore that, it's level 10. A trick weapon typically used by healing church hunters. It's said that the silver sword was employed by Ludwig, first hunter of the church. When transformed, it combines the sheath to form a greatsword. Similar to the Kirkhammer, in that sense, using its scabbard as the weapon, as an alternative weapon itself. The Healing Church workshop began with Ludwig and departed from old Waldgerman's techniques to provide hunters with a means to hunt more terrifying beasts and perhaps things still worse. I'm not sure where the worst comes in, because I know you can classify everything you fight as a beast, because it's far from normal, aside from the human players you fight. But yes. So, about the Holy Blade. I'm not sure if it means a silver sword is a Holy Blade, because as you probably realize that the Kirkhammer and the Ludwig's Holy Blade both use a silver sword. So I more wager that the whole sheath is meant to imitate the whole Holy Sword ideal. Because you look at it, the only difference between the Kirkhammer's silver sword and Ludwig's Holy Sword is the length. Ludwig's version is slightly longer, though I don't really notice any greater range despite the difference in length, visually. Otherwise, it looks identical. So yeah, the Holy Sword, I believe, based on the lore, is meant to imitate the Holy Moonlight Sword. So it makes sense the whole sheath version emulates that idea. But moving on from that. How it transforms is very similar to Kirkhammer, so you pop it in and it's done. So yes, the sheath is the greatsword form. Again, ignoring a lot of physics on blades and tension, but whatever. Now, having this sharp thing on your back like this, and then resting on your shoulder is a bad idea, but whatever. Visually, it is quite large, and it's probably the most familiar sight to any Dark Souls player, since Dark Souls is greatly known for its great swords and ultra great swords. Going over the stats for Ludwig's Holy Blade. Now, for the physical damage, you can see you can get quite a bit there, and the bonus damage also a lot. So yeah, 70 bonus damage. That's quite a bit there. Going on to the special stats, you see the durability is 250, so it's very high durability for sure. And moving on to attribute bonus, you got a D for strength, D for skill, and a D for arcane. So yeah, you're gonna get excellent scaling for both strength and skill, but also from arcane a little bit too. For your attribute requirements, you need 16 strength and 12 skill, which makes sense when you come think about how the whole sheath becomes a greatsword kind of thing. Alright, so yes, very powerful, it's no doubt going to be seen from that. Now going on to the damage type, you can see that it is divided between blunt and thrust. This makes sense. There's many dedicated thrust moves, as well as other moves that seem more blunt than anything else. Going on to animations for Ludwig's Holy Blade, well, if you saw the Kirkhammer video, you know how exactly how it's going to look. The base attack is various swipes and a few jabs. The power attack is just a straight up jab, repeatedly. Pretty quick too. The charged power attack, though, is pretty much the same thing, just a more heavier jab. Okay. The light step back attack, you see it's an uppercut, which is a rather quick uppercut there. Now the power attack, the backstep power attack anyway, is the quick stab. Now the light rolling attack is the uppercut on the opposing side, and the rolling power attack is no different from the regular power attack. Alright, you get the plunge attack right there, which is pretty basic, what you would think of the sword. And then you got the switch attack, which just pretty much drops your entire blade on the opponent. The light attacks, as you see, doesn't look very light at all. Just a series of swings and dropping the blade on your opponent. See, the power attack here is the heavy jab. Now, the charged power attack version has a follow-up. It's no different from the regular power attack, but followed up, you can drop the blade right on your opponent rather quickly too. Should pancake most opponents. Now, the backstep light attack, it's like, I don't know, you bash your blade into the opponent, which is weird. The backstep power attack, though, is a very nice uppercut there. Light rolling attack still has a basic swing, and the little heavy rolling attack is no different from the regular one. You see, the plunge attack just pretty much drops the entire thing on your opponent, must hurt like a son of a bitch. Then you have the L2 attack, which doesn't seem to all be very special. It just seems like more regular attacks in my opinion. Then you have the Switchback Attack here. You can see it's a very nice transition there. Very nice. Alright, going on to upgrading Ludwig's Holy Blade. Alright, you get 10 damage for the base, and you get more than 10 for the bonus. So yeah, this is going to get really, well, it's really good really quickly in terms of bonus. Just keep in mind that my stats are all 45. Second upgrade, you can see the strength for, well, the strength bonus for goes to a C, which is pretty good. Next upgrade, the arcane goes to a C. And the next upgrade after that, the dexterity goes to, or skill goes to a C, and then the strength goes to a B. And same thing goes for arcane. I forgot to buy some things there, but I replaced that. So moving on, you see that the next upgrade, the final one arriving at, both strength and skill are at B, as well as arcane. The bonus damage is surpassed the base damage, without any gems in it. Well, my skills are all set at 45, so that's pretty damn impressive. Also, when you do put arcane damage, the whole weapon will switch over to arcane itself, so it's good for those builds. Although it's better for strength and skill if you want overall damage, because you drop them 2 attributes opposed to 1. Alright, going to performance. Now, there should be no real difference between the Kirkhammer's Silver Sword and this one, albeit the Ludwig ones will be stronger due to bit scaling. Now, when you switch to your giant greatsword though, the actual Holy Blade, you've got pretty good range on this thing and nice wide sweeping attacks. This thing's pretty good for crowd control, I do say. Not much, it's pretty easy to use, but that may be because I'm more of a Dark Souls veteran than I have played Bloodborne. But nonetheless, it's incredibly powerful. So yes, like the Kirkhammer, the Silver Sword is not so great for groups. It's meant for one opponent, and mind you, the Kirkhammer was only good for one opponent as well. But Ludwig's Holy Blade is definitely good for almost every scenario in the game. It's my main use weapon. Hence why I had level 10 in the beginning. Now against the armored opponents, base attacks don't do a whole lot, but you got dedicated jab attacks with the Silver Sword. Alright, but how does the Greatsword work? Well, as you probably remember, the Greatsword also has a jabbing attack, but the base attacks work just fine alone to kill most opponents, just with the sheer damage. And that jab makes very short work of anyone with armor. That's for sure. And the even charged version? Even greater, more than half health. Follow-up attack nearly killed him. So yeah, pretty good. Now this fight didn't interrupt because this little bugger here got in the middle of it. But no matter, just jump right to the Greatsword. So, in terms of reach, I've pretty much got the same equal range as the Battle Maiden's axe. But however, there is the negative drawback is, the Greatsword is much slower. Not as slow as a Kirkhammer, but still much slower than most opponents' weapons. So you gotta be careful on that. Alright, so against the Shadow of Yharnam, it could be alright. You just gotta be careful you fight them. Because this way you'll see how not to fight them. Otherwise, the Silver Sword can keep up with them. You just gotta be careful when you're fighting groups, or you can easily get outmaneuvered and easily killed. I usually take good shots, but I figured, why not take one of the bad shots for once? But you can see that the weapon performs just fine. Just my dodging wasn't on par this round. But it makes a little difference. The weapon performed admirably, easily. I'm very comfortable with this weapon. But mainly that's because, again, I probably played Dark Souls way too much. Way too much. Now, for the Holy Blade version, it's again down to mainly about me attacking before they jump away. But regardless, the firepower of this weapon decimates them when you do hit them. Alright, time to go over the pros and cons of both weapons. So I'll call this Ludwig's Silver Blade, because I believe the other version is the actual Holy Blade. Now, going on to pros and cons. The Silver Blade is a very well-rounded, versatile weapon, and is more powerful than the Kirkhammer version because of the better scaling associated with this weapon. So yeah, and like Kirkhammer is also dedicated jab moves, which is also nice. Now if you watch that video, you'll recall for the cons, there are no real drawbacks to this weapon. and that still stands. There are no real cons with this weapon. You can probably say it's meant for one-on-ones, but I can still fight groups to some extent depending how close they are together. So I don't really see it as a real con. Anyway, going on to this score for Ludwig's Silver Blade. Damage, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10, since it's strong in the Kirkhammer version due to scaling. Reach, though, will be the same at 6 out of 10. Now, animation also did identically from the Kirkhammer, so that's be a 7 out of 10. Bonus, in this cover gets a little different. Bonus is a 10 out of 10. The Holy Sword is one of the best scaling weapons in the game. There are very few better, but definitely, without any gems, it surpasses the base damage at what 45 skill and strength. That's pretty awesome there. Miscellaneous, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. It is 1 point more than the Kirkhammer's version, mainly on it being more powerful. Just slightly. So in total, the Ludwig's Silver Blade gets 37 out of 50. It's a definitely must-have. Also, I did forget to mention that this weapon does have the same righteous damage that the Kirkhammer version does, but besides the point. Going on to Ludwig's Holy Blade. On the pros, it's an incredibly powerful weapon. It also has good crowd control with its wide swings. And also, it's a very familiar blade in the hands of any Dark Souls player. Well, majority of them. Alright. Going on to cons, however, it does suffer from slower swing speed. Although I forgot to say in pros as well that it also has righteous damage, so everything claims, though I didn't really notice any difference, but I'll put it there anyway. But yeah, the cons, slower swing speed. I don't see any other con with this though, because it's definitely versatile in almost every combat scenario that I've thrown it at. But anyway, going on to the score. Damage gets a 10 out of 10, easily. This weapon can definitely dish out the damage easily. Reach, 8 out of 10. It's not the longest reach of any weapon, but definitely pretty long in its own right. Especially those jabs. Animation, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's actually quite similar to the animations of the Silver Sword in some regards, albeit a lot slower. Bonus though, 10 out of 10, same as the Silver Sword, excellent bonus. Miscellaneous, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I've used this weapon throughout the entire game, and I've found most scenarios to be perfectly solved by applying this blade to subject. So definitely it would hold up against majority of opponents in the game. Some other weapons probably do better, but my Holy Blade usually got a job done pretty easily. So in total, Ludwig's Holy Blade gets 43 out of 50. It's nearly perfect. Nearly. Okay, here it is with all the gems inside. You can see I more than doubled the base damage. Just somewhat close to what the Holy Blade I'd normally use looked like. So yeah, I'll show the montage, but everyone can already see coming that this is going to destroy every enemy. So yeah, pretty damn powerful. But is anyone really surprised with that? It's a great sword. If they're not powerful, then they don't really have any point to exist in the video game. So yes, there might be a little bit of bias on my part, because I do love this weapon. It's my favorite weapon in Bloodborne. Easily. But is it the most interesting weapon? No. I can say that much. There are more interesting weapons in the game, but this one's simply my favorite. But you can't deny its awesome power, though. That's been Showcase for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and to see you guys next time. Take care out there.